This changes everything for the Detroit Red Wings after a gutsy effort and win. We get a major update on starting goaltender John Gibson that has serious implications on whether or not this team will make the playoffs. But not only that, Steve Yzerman is going to be very busy this week as we have multiple updates and reports revolving around trade rumors, trade reports, and what the Red Wings are actually planning to do ahead of this Friday's trade deadline. We're going to break that all down and more in this episode of Red Wings Digest. But before we get into all of that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. We've noticed that about 98% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your Red Wings, go down below, hit that free subscribe button. You get to stay up to date with everything going on with the Red Wings. If you're over on Facebook, make sure to hit that follow button instead. But Mark, let's get right into it. After a very gutsy effort, you get the 4-2 win in regulation. We have a major update on starting goaltender John Gibson, who did leave the game with an upper body injury, did not return to the game. Talbot, did his job. They got the win. Great game from Marco Kasper as well. We're going to get into that. But what do you make of this injury? Obviously, if he's out long-term or misses any type of time here, they're in trouble. I mean, let's not sugarcoat or anything like that. But we do have an update on the goaltender's health.
And I think the big thing is looking at the reports, everyone was holding their breath the second we seen this. Of course, he will not return with the upper body injury. Good to hear it's not lower. You can see the multiple reports that came out over and over on this guy. And the big thing with John Gibson himself, he is a workhorse. He was a workhorse with the Anaheim Ducks. He joined this team and had a bit of a shaky start, but what he's done over the past couple of months has been outstanding. And we get the report coming through per Todd as well that Gibson took a shot up high to the shoulder in the first period, kind of like a stinger, and he didn't feel right away. I think he's okay now. He's walking around. We'll look at it back in Detroit. This is one of the situations that if you're going into trade deadline and John Gibson's injured, I'm not going to sit here and say, listen, you're fine with running Cam Talbot, because he's a very good goaltender, though a bit of a down year. But Darius, this feels like one of those things that John Gibson has been the backbone of this team, of course, in the goaltending, has saved them in a couple of games. The team, of course, 5-on-5 isn't the best at scoring. John Gibson can help that himself, but he makes huge saves, which keeps them in these close, tight games, going down to the wire as they battle. And it feels like one of those things us as fans are going to be holding our breath until they get back to Detroit and get this evaluated. Because if John Gibson goes down, this is going to be a big question mark around the team heading in past deadline to the playoffs.
He's been a huge reason for their success so far this season. I mean, one of the winningest goaltenders in the league this year. He has some of the most shutouts in the league, number 2 in the league in shutouts. Save percentage speaks for itself. Like, he's been fantastic. And obviously, it sounds like he's going to be fine. You look at that and you go, okay, it's a stinger. They just pulled him because he didn't get the feeling back right away. He'll be okay, and ultimately they're going to address it when they get back to Detroit, and they'll probably do, whatever tests they have to do. But I do want to bring up on this other side of things that, Anthony Stolarz from the Toronto Maple Leafs earlier this season, same thing happened to him, where it was an upper body injury. They said he was going to be fine. It was just like a stinger, and then he was out for, I think, a month and a half, almost 2 months with a nerve issue. So hopefully it's not that, because, me seeing that he did not get feeling back right away is not the greatest thing. So hopefully he's okay and he comes back. Don't want to make this much bigger than it is, but of course he didn't finish the game. So clearly something is there, and hopefully he is healthy and he returns, because man, they are going to need him down the stretch here. Great effort, gutsy win. Marco Kasper with a couple points here. Cam Talbot as well. Do want to touch on that. Not the greatest stats, of course. Mark, obviously, do you have any thoughts on Cam Talbot before we move on to some other trade speculation? Not just speculation, rumors, reports. It is crazy right now. There's so much flying out there, and actual trades going down, including some waiver moves. Lots of updates on the Red Wings. But any thoughts on Cam Talbot? Obviously, Marco Kasper looks like he might be might be included in any blockbuster trade that the Red Wings make. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the big thing with Cam Talbot is, listen, if you had a young goaltender stepping in, I'm not going to say Costa's not ready to take the starting role in this position, but I think the big thing and a saving grace, if John Gibson is off for a couple of days, if he misses 2 or 3 games, at least you have a veteran goaltender that knows what it takes, that can step in, take the starter crease. He's been around the league for quite some time within this system, and he can really work with this group where maybe he stands tall. This gets him back in the momentum. We've seen, what was it? It felt like a month before his last fast start. So this is a guy that's trying to get back in the groove. Of course, the numbers, an 890 doesn't look the best. The save percentage is down what feels like across the rest of the NHLs now. But I think the big thing is, if you're going in, and like we said, we're just saying if John Gibson's out, the reports are saying that they're going to reevaluate it. But I think you're in a good hand that if Cam Talbot has to come in for 2 or 3 games, you have a guy that can feel the pressure and take the pressure of this Detroit team as they continue to hold on to an Atlantic Division spot.
Yeah, and they're going to need him as well down the stretch anyway. They need to pick up as many points as possible. They have one of the toughest schedules down the stretch when you're comparing to other Atlantic Division teams. But let us know in the comments how you feel about that. And hopefully John Gibson is okay and will continue to play for this team heading into the playoffs. Hopefully into the playoffs. But a couple moves today as well. Obviously, lots going on in terms of trades. A lot of teams are trying to free up, cap space. Roster space, all of those things, roster spots. So a lot of moves going on right now. Erik Gustafsson does get sent through waivers. I would imagine with all the chaos around the league, he does clear waivers, of course, with his cap hit as well. We'll see, because we've seen crazier things and a lot of, players getting claimed off waivers that you would have never thought the last week or so, including the Rangers with Ty Cartier and a couple others as well. Robbie Fabry, going to the Minnesota Wild. So some interesting moves there. But ultimately, I think he may clear. But any thoughts on that as well, Mark? Because it sounds like they're gearing up to do something here. They're accumulating as much cap space as they possibly can. I saw that they have about $60 million in deadline space, which is crazy because obviously you accumulate cap space and you don't have to pay the entire salary when you acquire a player at the trade deadline. So lots going on right now, and it sounds like they're right in the middle of some of the most prominent trade reports out there right now for some of the biggest players available.
And I think the big thing is, when looking back at this, Nick Kipro spoke on this a tiny bit ago, just speaking about how, of course, Stevie Y has had some pressure put on. We've seen the quote from Dylan Larkin coming last year at the trade deadline as well. This feels like a team that is gearing up for anything possible. We've seen him linked to a lot of names. Robert Thomas, Tyler Myers, who we're going to touch on very briefly in a second, but it feels like this is one of the moves. I mean, listen, Gustafsson is not going to come into this team and play a prominent role. So going down, you clear about $1 million. If he gets claimed, you're clearing $2 million, which they probably don't even need the space at this point. A veteran defenseman in the system could add some value. But one thing I do want to touch on is, of course, diving into something that Elliot Freeman came out with today. I'm hearing the next 24 to 48 hours, and this is speaking on Tyler Myers, a guy that has been linked to Detroit, of course, over the past couple of days, as they've reportedly put a second-round pick out for the veteran right-handed defenseman. What is your thoughts on this deadline? Of course, there's a lot of big names that are going to be linked to this team, but it feels like Tyler Myers could be the first domino to fall, as it seems like just under 24 hours to 48 from now that he's going to have a decision if he wants to go to Detroit.
I wouldn't even say he's linked at this point. A lot of people are saying, linked. He was originally linked, of course, when that first came out, but they have an offer tabled. Like the Red Wings want to get this done. They've given the Canucks like what we are willing to do here, and it's on Tyler Myers if he wants to waive at this point. Doesn't sound like he's particularly too interested in going to the Eastern Conference. So this could fall through. He may not be traded. Sounds like he actually likes playing in, Vancouver for the Canucks. So he might not want to move. If he doesn't, you got to pivot fast, right? Like this is a move on top of, everything else that doesn't, I don't even know if it moves the needle, right? Like I think there could be another move that you make. The one thing I do want to say too is obviously the Red Wings are deep in the Robert Thomas speculation reports, all of that right now. I mean, they're one of 2 teams that keep coming up, them and Utah. With the cap space the Red Wings have, Steve Yzerman, with what he is able to do right now with this situation, the fact that they are willing to part ways, the Blues it is, for the right package with Robert Thomas, I think you do almost anything to get a player like that. That is a solidified second line center for you. I think that would be a great fit for this team moving forward. You have everyone locked up, and it's not like Robert Thomas is a 31-year-old center. He's 25. He still has a lot of really good hockey ahead of him, and he's healthy now. He's been playing injured, as we found out recently, for the past 3 years or so. So he is healthy now. So thought that was pretty interesting. Mark, do you have any final thoughts on that? Because I feel like they kind of have to go out and make a splash this year to kind of ensure as well, because Dylan Larkin spoke out, and you made a great point a couple videos ago as well. Dylan Larkin was speaking out about how last year they didn't make a move, and he was pissed off about that. He was really upset with management. So they should be making moves to not only help them in the playoffs, but help them get into the playoffs at this point.
And I think the big thing is, listen, they got to make some type of move. If you're picking up a veteran right-handed defenseman to join this group, that is perfect. If you want to get Tyler Myers for a second-round pick, but I think the biggest picture, and you kind of said it perfectly, Robert Thomas is a guy that doesn't become available very often. A first-line center, of course, would be a 2C here, but a really damn good 2C when you're looking behind Dylan Larkin. It feels like, yes, Stevie Y doesn't want to sell the farm to go out. We've seen it with the Quinn Hughes offer. Of course, Minnesota stepped up and offered more, but this feels like that type of guy that when looking at the team, not only will he help the 5-on-5 production, because you can slide everyone down. Cop becomes a third line center. Maybe one of the guys move to the wing. Maybe you move off from a contract in order to get this, but it feels like one of those deals. If you're serious about competing this year, rewarding the guys not only this season, but for the years to come, as there's still 5 years left on this guy, I think you need to be all in on a player like this because it helps you this year, next year, the year after. Times it by 5. This is the player that you need to be in everything in on to get within this organization.
And I said, he would be a solidified second line center on this team. He can be a first line center. I don't know if the stats really show it this year, but again, he's been playing hurt. We found that out. He had a procedure over the Olympic break, all of those things. So I think he would be willing to do it. And I think he would be closer to home on the East Coast in Detroit anyway, so he might be open to it. And he did say he would only waive, this is what we heard as well, he would only waive to go to a situation that makes sense both in terms of a competitive team and somewhere that he wants to go in terms of the geography as well. So we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. The Red Wings have fallen to 4th in the Atlantic Division, but pick up a big 2 points with that win. Marco Kasper with a great performance, maybe raising his trade stock at this point could be pretty interesting. Let us know how you feel in the comments below. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Red Wings.